Last guest writes the first question. It's a mystery to both of us. I will let you run with it.
All right. So here, I'll read it off. All right. So this question is, at the end of the day, what do you reflect on the most? Stay safe. So for me, I would say, end of the day, the biggest thing that matters to me is family. My family first. We have, it's myself, my wife. We have a 1.5-year-old little girl. She's just about to be a 1.5 years in 10 days.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So,
Belated.
Yeah. But
walking yet?
You know what? She's not. That's not a concern. I mean, she's excelling almost everywhere else for her age. She just doesn't have an interest. She stands up on soft surfaces like the couch. She's up right away. She can be up and grab her toys and stuff. On the floor, she was just like wants no business. When we'll go to pick her up and she'll just lift her feet up. She's like, no, I'm good.
Is she a roller and a crawler? So
she doesn't crawl either. She does this scoot where she plants one arm, swings the leg through, and she's so fast. I mean, she's very efficient with her method. But yeah, we're working on the walking. We actually have a physical therapy appointment scheduled for her this month to try to get some pointers, make sure this nothing physically going on. One of our friends said she might even have just a weird what was it? Like a sensory thing where she just doesn't like the feel of the hard surfaces or whatnot. So yeah, we don't think it's anything major. She's healthy and thriving everywhere else. But
I only ask in a very general term, and anybody who's had kids before knows what I'm talking about. When they're little, and you set them on the floor, on the blanket, whatever, and you go to the kitchen to get the new bottle or whatever it is, 9 times out of 10, you come back and they're right where you left them until they learn how to roll or crawl or something. And how, like you said, how quickly they could go from being fast there to where they go.
Fast and more frightfully, it's quiet. So we don't even know when she's taken off. Granted, we're kind of also just enjoying this time, as we know this time will pass, or we can just pick her up, hold her. She likes to be held, likes to be picked up, and points to where she wants to go and all that. So we're just trying to cherish that time. I think we've been fortunate to get a little extra time than normal. So, but we are looking forward to the times when she's more independent and moving on her own, when we don't have to carry her.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, family, at the end of the day, they're number one priority. But then on next to that is just other relationships. Something I've been trying to work on the most recently is just being more intentional with, I get very isolated and secluded at home, which is, it's my comfort area. Like I'm a homebody to begin with. So I enjoy just the comforts of being at home with the wife and daughter. Both, she works from home as well, so when we get a lot of time together. But yeah, one of the biggest things I see and I envy a lot is a lot of my peers all have a lot of friendships and relationships that they continue to build on, and it's I don't get like any dude time with anybody, and that's a big thing, especially as a man. You gotta. I love my family to death, and we mesh really well together, where we have a very strong family unit, and so we get along all the time. I don't really always find the need of I need to get away for any reason, but it comes, and as men, we need to have other men in our lives that we can relate to, that we can speak life into, that we can be spoken into with, and just have those relationships. So I'm trying to get a little bit more intentional with outside of the home relationships and friendships, and trying to just build on that. So, yeah, that's really my main focus at the moment.
I think long term, when we look back on this era, and I'll say from the start of COVID, really driving home that remote work aspect, I get what you're saying about the male to male bonding. but I think we just develop those relationships with coworkers by going to work. And it may sometimes never go beyond, we grab lunch together while we're at work, and for whatever reason, we don't hang out after work. Or it could be that ability to foster those friendships that do grow. So the work from home is a cool component, but at the same token, it really does, without intention, kind of force that isolation. And especially if, and I'm not judging you in any way, but if you're naturally somebody who's okay with isolating, it gets, I think what it is before you've really realized that you've totally submarined, you're like, oh, I haven't talked to anybody.
Yeah. That's really how those thoughts come, because you get so comfortable in where you're at. But exactly, I mean, everything you're just saying, like, I think COVID just got people very comfortable with being indoors. I mean, not even getting outside into sunlight and into nature, but just being indoors. And obviously there's a lot of pros that come with working from home, and the benefit of not having to travel, not having to sit in traffic twice a day. But having those interactions absolutely is true. You know, having coworkers, having people you talk to on a daily basis, you get face-to-face time, you can learn about people's lives, and you kind of hear a little bit more about what's going on outside of your own little bubble. Obviously, you know, that it comes with those negatives as well. But yeah, we're fortunate that we have the situation we do, especially with the little one. You know, my wife would go crazy if she didn't have the time that she does with our little girl. But
was she working from home before the baby was born? No.
So she was, she was working in an office building down in Rancho Bernardo area. And obviously once COVID hit and we didn't really have an idea of time frame, right? It was, okay, we're going to work from home for those 2 weeks. And then sure enough, I think what happened with a lot of businesses is they're like, we're paying rent for these buildings that we don't need. And everyone is just as productive, if not more, working from home. And so they ended up canceling their lease. Everyone worked remote, and yeah, I mean, it was history after that. But it was funny, it was the one thing that she wanted most in life was to work from home. Her job, she could have done from home regardless. She's in the product management space, project management, which she does a lot of the digital side of things. Like she's working on the graphics, the websites, ebooks for the company, all the different marketing materials. So everything like design wise. And so, that's her biggest request was to work from home, and she was able to do it 1 day a week for a little while. And then COVID was like really the biggest blessing for us personally within our own family.
It's a personal accountability thing in the sense that you might ask for it. And I think for the majority of people, just the concept, man, I don't have to come to work into the office every day. This is great. But then you quickly find out if you're not self-motivated and you don't have that drive, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I've got to get work done and I haven't done anything today.
Yeah, I fall guilty of that every day. She's better because her work is very busy. And so she when she has downtime, it's a blessing because then she can go, play with the baby. We can sit and have breakfast together or whatnot. Me on the other hand, like having my own businesses, and you wear all the hats. So you have all the responsibilities, but you also have none of the accountability other than, okay, I know I have tasks to do. I have my written list out, but that's all right, I can get to it later. Yeah. What's another 30 minutes? Or, then you start thinking about all the silly things around the house that you wouldn't do normally, but maybe now's a good time for the dishes.
Anything to keep you from actually doing work. Right. I'm going to take you all the way back then. Take you back to a young boy. Where's hometown? Where'd you grow up?
I was born in New York.
What part?
So it was Greenwich Village, New York.
Okay, in the city.
My parents split when I was very young. I think 8 months around there. My biological father didn't want kids. My mom she was from Massachusetts originally. She ended up moving to New Hampshire. So I was raised in New Hampshire from year one until I left for the military.
What took your mom to New York from New Hampshire? or Massachusetts?
I believe he did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he was. So she was from Massachusetts, and my whole family's still back East Coast. And funny enough, is we're still close with my father's side of the family. All my aunts and uncles, cousins. It's weird.
Except him.
Except for him. He just did not. He didn't get along with his family at all. So I'm pretty sure he remarried another lady that didn't want kids. You know, they're living their life. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he was in New York at the time, and so when they got married, they were living there. So yeah, fast forward a year or so, probably less, we moved to New Hampshire. And
now, why New Hampshire as opposed to back to Massachusetts?
I'm not sure. Actually,
okay.
Not too sure. But it was just me and her. It was me, her, and my grandmother for, the first 8 years of my life.
What kind of work did your mom do?
She was a bartender.
Okay.
Yeah, she worked a lot of just restaurants. So it helps having my grandmother around because she worked nights, and my grandmother was there to kind of help raise me. And then my mom ended up remarrying when I was 9, a little like 9.5 or so. And so one thing I was really good at chasing boyfriends away. That was like, how dare you step into my life and try to take my mom away from me. That was
I'm
awful.
sure that's exactly how your mom thought about it.
Yeah, I was a terror as a little kid. So yeah, I was around 9 years old. She meets my now stepdad, and they end up getting married and having another son. So I have a half brother who's almost 10 years younger than I am. So
he didn't bring any children with him to the relationship?
Yeah, it was his first marriage. And so he was just a guy that would not go away. I just could not, no matter what I did, he just would not go. But, and we have a phenomenal relationship. I mean, he's dad. We have a phenomenal relationship now. But, yeah, so they remarried, had my little brother when I was just about 10 years old. And that too, it was a little weird because I was the only child for 9 years.
Any rebellion in you? Now all of a sudden there's another little kid in the house?
So I don't think that much when I was younger. It was more like in the teen years when I had all the responsibility. I had the curfews, I had the rules, and then, he comes up and he's got nothing. And you're like, what the heck, But either way, obviously we grew up with different interests. When I left for the service, he was 10. So I missed a lot of his life growing up as well, a lot of prime years. But yeah, the childhood was fairly easy.
What'd stepdad do?
So he was a corrections officer.
Okay.
So he did over 20 years in the prison system. So he was at the max security prison in Concord, New Hampshire. I'm sure he has a lot of weird stories that he hasn't even told us, but there was times when we actually we ran into inmates out like at the mall that it's a weird situation. It's like this guy was,
hey, I know you.
This guy you're just in prison ruling over him, and now you guys are buddy out in the mall. And we had a couple of run-ins like that, a little weird, but yeah, so he worked days, mom worked nights, and so we didn't have a strong like family unit, I would say. Loving home, they both did their best for us. They both provided for us, but there's not that sense of like a nurturing house. There's rarely would you have like family dinners and things like that, and you're kind of scattered all over the place. So, but yeah, I grew up an average kid.
Were you left to your own vices a lot, just kind of on your own? Or?
Yeah, yep. So me, like I would dive into video game. That was my thing. I was like a gamer. So I played sports growing up. I was not the most athletic kid. I tried and I enjoyed playing sports. I did not excel in them. But I played baseball, basketball, a little hockey, tried football for a year. That did not go over well. I was 90 pounds growing up, all throughout like junior high.
So not the lineman.
Yeah. So
basically not in any position at 90 pounds.
So anyway, like for my baseball games, and I would our field was right down the street, so I would bike to my games. Like we didn't, they wouldn't come to my games, stuff like that, and so I kind of was pretty independent. And
were you living in Concord at the time? Or?
No, we grew up in a place called Nashua. I don't know if you're familiar. It's
I've heard of it. I wouldn't know it.
Okay, it's a couple cities south, so we are literally on the border of Massachusetts.
Okay,
so we're right on the line. Then you have like Manchester is the next one, and then Concord's the next biggest city after that.
Population wise, what size city?
So
was
where
it?
we were, at least when I was growing up, it was about 80,000.
So a decent sized city.
Yeah, it's not like small town vibes or anything like that. And on top of that, we were the number one safest city to live in for like 4 years. That's when I was growing up. It was a very nice city.
I'm sure that's how I heard the name. Obviously, being in law enforcement, you see those reports that come out, safest cities and
it
people
was like
within
late
your organization,
90s into early 2000s.
like, hey, we didn't even hit the list.
So, but a very diverse city. Like our high school, when I was a senior in high school, our whole school was about 5,000 kids. So it was a good size. 2 years after I graduated, they actually ended up splitting the city in half. Now there's a north and south, but I mean, it's still a very diverse city.
You mentioned starting out in Greenwich Village. So was neither your mom nor your dad were from the city? They went there for work or whatever?
My father might have already been there.
Did you have much connection with your extended family growing up, or was it kind of sporadic?
Yeah. So we so the rest of his family on his side, they were in Jersey.
Okay.
So they were in the names right there.
It'll come to you as you're driving home.
Exactly. I'll text you while I'm driving. But they were in Jersey, and so growing up, I would go down and spend a couple weeks at a time. My grandmother would drive me down, drop me off. They'd stay for maybe a night or two, and then go home. And I would stay for like 2 weeks every summer and hang out. And it was one of my aunt and uncles. I had 3 cousins from their immediate family, and then another one of my uncles would usually come and stay while I was in town as well. And it was fun. Just it's a weird dynamic of still being a part of that family and never know. I have zero memories of my father. So, but I think one of my cousins ran into him at a funeral like 10 years back or something like that, and had an awkward exchange, and then left. But we still talk. Yeah, still talk today. My aunt's actually, she's every holiday, she's always texting me, and her birthdays or whatnot. I think last time I saw them actually was 2018. They came out for my wedding. So I actually haven't been home since 2019.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, I haven't gotten home in a long time. My parents have traveled out a couple times. They were out
Go in
here.
January. The weather's usually pretty good about that time.
It's great in January. Yeah, if you go April, right now is a decent time. And then if you can hit end of September to middle of October, it's prime time. I mean, and it's beautiful. You got the foliage. If you travel, if you were to do like a New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine trip, it'd be stunning. It's a phenomenal place. But I don't miss the winters. And the summers are hot and humid. You walk outside in the summer and you're outside for 30 seconds and you feel like you got to take a shower again. It's gross. I don't miss it at all. Funny enough, when I got out of the military, my mom was like, "Oh, so you're coming back home?" And
hell no,
zero. I don't know where she got that idea, but zero part of me even considered that.
How were you in school academically?
Awful. I
don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah, awful. No, I was one of those kids that just didn't apply themselves. I did okay, and then when I did apply myself, I did pretty good. But the later years, it was just a struggle for me because I had no interest. Like if it was a subject I was interested in, I did great. But I just at an early age had that mindset of like, what do I need this for? And sure enough, you fast forward 10, 20 years later, and all that's true. Like, see, I didn't need that. or I do have a calculator in my pocket.
All the time. Now it's on my wrist.
Yeah. So average kid, average student, definitely like a C student. But
was your motivation to just get C's just so you could play sports? Or did you even have that as a motivation?
It wasn't even that. Yeah, it was just the lack of interest, really. I had a really bad time with just like daydreaming. Like I just, my mind drifts. I mean, it still is like that. My mind wanders and drifts like crazy. And I had a really hard time focusing unless it was something I wanted to focus on. So you put me in a classroom of, something I didn't want to learn, and I wouldn't learn it. And which is funny because all of I had a pretty small friend group growing up, but they were always like the smarter kids. And so I was the idiot of the group for sure. They're in their AP classes and stuff, and it's like, hey, I got my C. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the social aspect of school, but not the academics. And then the fast forward after high school. So I graduated high school in 2003 and went to college for a semester. And I was like, college, it's not for me. Coming from high school to now I'm in the further education, it did not suit me well. And
did you go straight into a 4-year university, or did you try a stop off at a junior college?
No, I went into a 4-year up in Plymouth, New Hampshire. So
what did you start out studying?
Criminal justice. Okay. Actually, yeah.
So using that as a jump off, your stepdad was a corrections officer.
Yep.
Anybody else in your family or that you were connected to, law enforcement or military?
No, I was the first for military. Yeah. And law enforcement. No, I believe my dad was the only one.
What was your dad and mom pushing for you as far as adult life? Were they pushing college?
So they didn't really push anything, to be honest.
Figure it out.
Yeah. What was funny is like, I would get scolded for getting bad grades, but they wouldn't help me to get better grades. So, I'd get all the repercussions without like the assistance. And
fix yourself. I don't know how you could do it, but you got to fix yourself.
So, when I started applying to college, they're like, great. They supported it, but there was really no push for me to do anything specific or like you have to get a degree or whatnot. So they were very supportive in whatever direction I was going to go into. Military was an afterthought. Military was not something that I planned to do my whole life, and I was not one of those people that was I'm going to be a Navy SEAL from being a young kid. So military was kind of an afterthought. Once I left college, it was one of those situations where 2003, you're still like, you need a college degree if you're going to make it anywhere in life. So military was like, all right, well, I'm not going to finish school. I might as well join the service and at least have an avenue for my future. And so I had one of my best friends in high school. He had joined the military right after graduation. And so I called him up and just was kind of chatting about his experience, his likes, dislikes.
What branch did he go into?
He was Navy as well. He was a CB. He was a CB in the Navy. He really enjoyed his job. So I ended up going to the recruiter's office and spoke to every branch and kind of just figured out what they all offered. And at the time, I had heard of what a Navy SEAL was, but I had zero. It's not like today where everything about the community. I mean, the entire population knows what a Navy SEAL is, what training's like, at least a sugar-coated version of what training's like, but I had no idea. And so I literally just went to all the branches like, what's the hardest thing you got? And went and talked to the Navy guy, and he had a lot of information about BUDS and what it entailed. And it sounded very intriguing. And it sounded, for me, it was one of those situations where I kind of had stuff to prove to myself. It wasn't for anybody else. It was, I grew up very timid, even though we had a loving home, I deeply battled with depression and deep depression, anxiety. And so for me, it was like, all right, what can I do that's going to take me out of my comfort zone and really force me to do something challenging and hopefully gain some confidence and self-esteem from doing that. And so,
if you don't mind me asking, the depression and anxiety, was that something you were consciously aware of? And did you seek any type of assistance or treatment as a young man?
No. So unfortunately, anyway, it's something, I was very aware of. I still battle with it tremendously today. I've never had an opportunity to really do a deep dive into it. I'm sure issues of abandonment with, dad leaving and all that stuff. I look back at it now, and I can definitely put the pieces together. At the time, you're like, well, life is good. Like, why am I depressed? Like, I don't know what it is that's really keeping me in this hole here. But it was never really addressed. We never sought any help for it.
One of the things, having been through a divorce myself, and anytime I get the opportunity to talk to somebody who has children, I always stress the importance of don't say anything negative about their mother or father, whoever the opposite side is.
Right.
You had a unique relationship with your father's side of the family where you were in contact with all of them, but not him. You had your mom. Where I'm going with this, was anybody talking negatively about your father, or was everybody pretty mellow with it?
I will say nothing. There's nothing really that stands out.
Okay.
But on that note, being a young kid, and when I talk about like we didn't have a very nurturing home, there was a lot of negativity that was spoken into me and my little brother. That you're an idiot, you're stupid, you're dumb, you're gay, you're retarded, all that stuff, right? And it may not have been in like a purposeful behavior, but it's
just poor choice of word.
Yeah. But as a young developing kid, like you're going to take all that information and you're going to believe it. Here's the people that I look up to and care about the most, and they're telling me that I'm retarded, and they're telling me I'm stupid, and that I'm, all these things. So yeah, you look back at it now and you're like, all right, well, I can understand like the psyche behind it and all this information that I absorbed, and your mind, you believe it. And so I took that with me my entire adult life, into the military, through the military, out of the military. And it's one of my biggest hardships that I face is that negative thinking always comes to light. Like my first thought is always a negative one, and I have to really battle to try to pull myself out of that. Or my wife is really good. Like, hey, you're saying this. Let's look at it from this perspective.
Right.
Or like, okay, this happened. All right, you're dwelling on this. Let's dwell on the positives of this. So, she's really great at helping me kind of get out of that funk. But it's my immediate go-to, always, 100% of the time. And
I wonder how much were you aware of that natural tendency before somebody like your wife started really kind of calling it out to you, like, hey,
very aware.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very aware. I was always seen as the depressed kid. I was always like the quiet, shy, depressed kid, always. Even in the military, like I was like, I really wish that going through the training and everything that I have been able to accomplish in life, which is quite a lot. I was really hoping that was going to kind of pull me out of it.
It just goes
it's hard.
to show.
It's all, it's a whole mental game.
It just goes to show when we think about being parents and the words we say to our kids and what we instill in them, the ability to break that mindset, even after accomplishing as much as you've accomplished, which there are so many people in this world that wouldn't even have the confidence to even try it, but yet still not enough to kind of take that big eraser and go, no, I am okay. I can get through this. It's weird, the things that we get ingrained in us as little kids that just stick. Yeah.
And then there's times when I didn't grow up religious. I was raised as a Catholic, and I say that in quotes because we never went to church. I had my baptism and my communion and stuff like that when I was younger, but never grew up in a religious home. Fast forward to back in 2016, it's when I found Christ. My whole life changed in that instant, and now I'm able to see things in a different light. I'm sure we can talk about that a little bit later, but it's like the one thing that kind of really helps with shifting that mindset, because
what is the grind? It's not just a routine, but the decision we make to wake up, give everything we've got, then find a way to go further. Grind. spelled GRND, is more than a brand. It's a movement, an emotion we all feel connected to as we work daily to pursue our goals and support each other. Founded by a former Army Ranger, Grind Activewear has a clear mission to give 100% and then some more in sport, fitness, and in life. Functional, high-quality performance wear that's rooted in American culture, because you demand gear that outworks the rest. Whether you're on the field, in the gym, or building your own lane, Grind is for those who refuse to settle. Go check out thegrindcollective.com and tap into something bigger than clothing. And while you're there, use the promo code TRANSITION15 to get 15% off your purchase. You're likely already on the grind. Maybe you just don't realize it yet, but the grind continues.
When you know whose you belong to, like it kind of puts a little bit more worth on your life, and so now it's a little easier for me to recognize it and see it, and to know that that's the enemy has such a big attack right now. And I think the better you're doing in life, the harder attacks are going to come. And it's just something. I mean, it's something everyone's going to struggle with. We're all going to go through the seasons, but I do find that the more I'm excelling in things, the more struggle and confrontation I get with other forces that are just trying to ruin things.
Dime store psychologist, I would almost say that idea of feeling connected with, and I'll use the analogy of an adult figure. You came back to God. That's that adult figure that you kind of needed as a young man,
yes,
that
absolutely.
You're now finding as an adult. And one of the questions that I've been thinking is, as you were growing up and getting the negative influences, whatever you want to call it, was there a positive influence in your life that was always kind of that go-to for you as an adult from an adult perspective?
No, they're they're really the only other person within my family that like I had constant communication with was my grandmother.
Well, like what was your relationship with like with her?
It was great.
Oh, okay.
But after my mom remarried and she was no longer part of my everyday life. I mean, we still had a very close. We would see her all the time. I mean, she moved back down to Massachusetts, and we would see her at least a few times a month. Very frequently.
But not like grandma was down the street,
right? Yeah, but no. To answer your question, no, there was really no like positive adult figure. No coaches, no teachers, or anything that I really had good relationships with.
Or even anybody that you just bonded with.
Yeah.
Decided to go in the Navy.
Yep. So decided Navy after talking to recruiters. Buds seemed like the hardest thing, and which it is. All you other military folk. No, it sounded like a big challenge, and again, at the time there was not a lot of information. I had one book I found that a friend gave me, and it was very minimal information about like what it was actually like. So I ended up enlisting in.
What was your physical fitness like at that time?
At the time, it was pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good. I was working out a lot, even before I enlisted. I was working out a lot. I was a terrible runner, but I was small, I was light, I had really good control over body weight stuff, but I was in the gym all the time. I mean, 5-6 days a week in the gym, just working out, trying to put muscle on, and actually ended up going into the Navy at 179 pounds, and I left boot camp at 144. So I lost all the muscle was gone, just because it's not a physical boot camp. It's just, it's very different from like Marine boot camp or Army boot camp. So we'd PT at like the most minimal part of boot camp.
Did you go in on a contract?
So yes, I went in with a BUDS contract. So all that does, it guarantees you a spot, right? So I still had to have to take the screen test while you're in boot camp. Once you pass that, there's a program. It used to be just the dive motivator program that was on base, and so every special operations candidate, so that was SEAL, SWIC, diver, EOD, would have to go to the early PTs, I think twice a week. And so, you get up earlier than everybody else. You go, you PT, you come back just in time for everybody to wake up, and you start your regular routine. That was kind of the only thing that really kept you going physically, was that program. It has since, it went from Dive Motivator program, which I was a part of before Buds for a while, which I'll talk about here in a second. But then it became like an actual pre-Buds. So it was an 8-week program that was more specific to the training.
Is it a component of boot camp, or is it kind of like in between?
It was for us at the time. It's separate from boot camp, but just during your boot camp time. And then from boot camp, I went to my A school. So back then, I still needed a source rate before you had the special operator rating. So I went to ITA to A school, still in Great Lakes, Illinois. So boot camps in Great Lakes, Illinois. Went across the street and went to my A school for 3-4 months. And then from there...
Did you actually put any thought into what your A school was going to be?
No. I mean, I chose something, yes, as a backup to where like the people are like, all right, this is a good rate to where you are actually in an air conditioned room on a ship or what. I mean, it was plan Z for me. I was very like, once I started training for Buds, I was very focused. And
I've heard a lot of people just say basically they went down the list and looked for the shortest A school as far as time duration.
Yeah. Well, the issue for me is the A school I picked had a long wait. So I was in what's called a delayed entry program. Sorry. So I enlisted and it was 11 months until I could actually go to boot camp. So I finally went to boot camp January of 2005.
But you were delayed because of your SEAL contract, not because of your age.
It was because of the my rate, my IT rate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So not for Buds, not for age or anything. It was for my rate. And so, all right, boot camp, a few months at A school, and then still in Great Lakes, I was at the Dive Motivator program. That was just a weird gray area time where you're not students, you're not staff, you belonged to the special operations instructors that were there running it. And so it was 5 days a week. We had weekends off. We were living in staff barracks. So it was actually a pretty good time. We got our asses handed to us. We got worse beatings there than I did at Buds. No joke. I think because Buds has parameters and rules and they had none. And so I was there for about 6 or 7 months because I ended up getting injured there. So my first role in Buds was before I even got to Buds. So I was supposed to class up with 258 and ended up injuring my knee. They rolled me back, kept me there to get ready and prepared a little bit better. And then I went out. I came out here to San Diego in February of 2006 to class up with 259.
How did you like being in the military? Like, I know nobody ever talks about Navy boot camp being extremely difficult, but how did you like it once you got into it? How did it settle with you?
So boot camp alone is a joke. It really is. Again, on the physical aspect. So I knew I was going to Buds. So for me, it was like, this is just something I need to get through, and I have to learn all of the verbiage and the language, and we had to go through all the motions of learning what ship life is like and all. And for me, it was in and out because I was like, I'm going to Buds and I'm going to pass. So yeah, Navy boot camp, it's not physical at all. It's 9 weeks long. Learning about the Navy. There's zero aspect about learning about special operations. Years after I did go through boot camp, they ended up making special operations divisions. So everyone in your division had a contract to go to one of the programs. For me, when I was in, it was me and 3 other guys were contracted to go. So they did end up changing I don't know what the boot camp life was like for them. If it was any different, if it was more physical, I'm not too sure. But they at least started kind of shaping the guys to be around other men that were going into special operations. And
when you first get in, is a regular Navy giving you a hard time? Oh, you're going to,
Yeah, they all do it. But again, for me, it was just really hard to take them seriously because because you get the pictures of like the Marine drill instructors and you're like, all right, I can see being afraid of these guys. They try, and it's like, all right, you're gonna yell at me for whatever, but it didn't feel real. And so it just made it easier to make it through. It was just a period of 9 weeks that I had to get through in order to go to A school, which again, I was just going through A school, going through the motions, planning on not having to use it. So I had never really had experience with Big Navy before. I know a lot of guys, from the teams maybe had fleet time beforehand, or I went to Buds injured or failed out and had to go to the fleet. So I'd never had that experience. Which was one of the biggest motivators for me in Buds was not being on a ship. My first class, so I classed up with 259 in 2006.
What time of the year?
It's March, so springtime. Yeah.
Not a bad time to come to
Fortunately,
Coronado.
I've been in 3 Buds classes, and so I've experienced every season, 3 Hell Weeks, all different seasons. But I came on here, and during our first class, every Monday morning you would go out for your 4-mile timed run. So you're out on the beach. It's dark out. It's cold. But there was a boat that was just offshore, and it was the biggest motivator for me, because I was like, I do not want to be in that ship. Like zero. I would rather break everything here and just suck it up than to be stuck on a boat. I don't know how people do it. I mean, good on them for all the Navy guys out there. I mean, I didn't even step foot on a Navy vessel until after I got out of the military, and it's made me even more happier that I didn't go that route. But
how long were you out here before you actually classed up and got going with first phase?
Not long at all. So I came out here end of March 06. We classed up. I'm sorry, end of February, and we classed up in March. So I was like right away flew out. I think I was here for the weekend, and that Monday checked into indoc, and then waited for our indoc to start. Then you have your 3 weeks of indoc, and then first phase kicks off. And so started first phase with 259.
Going back to your knee injury real
Yep.
quick, had you ever experienced any significant injury playing sports?
Nope.
And did that knee injury give you any reservation at all?
So yeah, I never had any sports related injuries growing up. That's not true. Sorry. I had torn a ligament in my left ankle twice in basketball, but never any knee issues. Even today, I don't have full range of motion with my ankle, which does limit me to do certain things. Not a lot, but no knee injuries. And what happened, I think, is when we were at the dive motivators, it was so overworked, and I never had to put it through. I mean, we worked hard. It was 5 days a week. We were working out 3 times a day because we had our own PT, and then we had to work out with all the boot camp kids coming to us, working out with them. And then the rest of the day, we were getting beat on the pool deck. So it was just a lot of overuse, and got some really bad strains and tendonitis, and it never left. So my first class with 259, made it all the way to middle of Hell Week, and I ended up getting what's called brachial plexopathy, and so I got nerve damage.
That's a new one that I haven't heard of.
So it was nerve damage in my neck. The side of my neck that it made my entire left arm dead. So couldn't move it, couldn't feel it.
Boat carries?
Boat carries or the logs, I'm not sure. Probably boat carries, since you have all that strain. I mean,
it wasn't a single incident that you remember?
No. And because I know that is like it happened gradually. So it started getting numb over time, and then I started like not being able to move it, and then it was completely dead. So the instructors actually let me go on a little bit further. So they literally all they did was they shoved my hand inside my life vest.
I'm fine.
Yeah, they shoved a hand in my life vest, and then a few hours later, my right arm started to go. And so they're like, all right. So they ended up rolling me back. It's quite common. I believe there's at least a couple kids in each class that it happens to. So when I got to medical, they were like, all right, good news. Your feeling is most likely going to come back. Bad news is it could be a week, could be a year. We don't know. And so for 3.5 months, they just stuck me in the indoc office. I was just doing errand work for the instructors, which was actually pretty cool because I got to know them on a more personal level.
Are you able to PT at all during this period?
I was able to only do lower body stuff. So I would still run to keep cardio up, but I mean, I couldn't do any push-ups, no pull-ups. I could do ab workouts, but that's basically it. So I was in there for 3.5 months. I skipped 260, and then when 261 classed up, I started with them day one of NDOC.
When the feeling starts, does the feeling start coming back right away, or was there a period where you're like, am I ever going to get feeling back in the...
No, it was completely dead for that time frame.
Oh, wow.
And then I would slowly, I was like, oh, I can move my finger. So,
but 3 months of that?
Yep.
Wow.
And I'm a lefty. So like shaving, brushing your teeth, right hand, like all that stuff was challenging.
That mentally though, that had to be a hard thing to, you know, I mean, it's cool that they were, hey, we're going to keep you here. We're going to, you know, let this rehab and heal. But at the same token, it's you going through it on the daily going, I can't feel anything. I can't move my hand.
I actually had a friend of mine. We were out to dinner one of the weekend nights, and he literally takes his steak knife and cuts my arm, and I didn't feel it. And I was just sitting there bleeding. I'm like, dude, come on. But yeah, it was.
What's the movie with Adam Sandler where he's in a
Mr.
wheelchair?
Deeds with the foot, right? So anyways, yeah, once I got feeling back, and you know, we checked it out with medical, and they gave me the green light to class up again. I started with 261, day one of NDOC, went all the way to middle of Hell Week, and got pneumonia, and it was pretty bad. I ended up passing out in the chow hall during lunch, and then I don't remember anything. I think I literally just face planted in my tray of food. So I woke up in the ER where they were cutting my boots off. I wake up and there's all these people over me and my boots are flying. And I had no idea what's going on. And so they said my O2 level went down to a 49, which I didn't even know if you can legally live.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
when it's that
that's
low.
pretty low.
Yeah. And so I was for sure thinking they were going to drop me. I mean, 2 medical rolls in a row, plus, I mean, this one was kind of serious. So they ended up giving me another shot. And my third, and I had to class up right away. So I classed up with 262 again, first day of NDOC. Not only was I dealing with the pneumonia, I had stress fractures. Like I was beat up. I mean, going through 2 first phase, or at least the first half of first phase is the worst time in buds. Going through that twice and now a third time was definitely, it was very mentally draining. I mean, obviously the physical part was there, but I was beat. I was really defeated. And then the other part is you get to see the people you know continue to move on. And normally I know people say like you don't make friends before Hell Week because you have no idea who's going to come and go. But I had built a ton of relationships in the Dive Motivator program. Like I came out to buds with like 34 guys that I was really good friends with. And so you see people go, you see people move on. But yeah, it was challenging just to see everybody move on. And you had to start over for a third time. It was awful. It was very demoralizing. But one of the things I will say is the instructor staff, the first phase and NDOC instructor staff was really supportive as far as they did their best just to make sure I made it to Hell Week. Like if our class was about to get beat for any reason, they would call me over and be like, go to medical or go do this. Like on one hand, you feel bad because you know your class is about to, get put through it. But at the same time, I really appreciated the amount of effort they put in just to make sure that I got to that point. Plus I had already, it's not like I missed out. Yeah. I already done it twice. So you feel bad.
Been there, done there, got the t-shirt.
But anyway, so I ended up making it to Hell Week with 262 and made it through finally.
Even with the stress fractures and everything?
Oh yeah. So the pain got so bad in second phase. The second phase, it's the dive phase. So, I mean, everything's in the water. But my hip flexors were so bad and my ankles were so bad. When we were done doing one of our 2-mile ocean swims, I literally had to have somebody carry me off the beach. I could not physically stand on my own. The pain it was like while I'm moving, fine. The second I stop moving, because like we do your swim, you go out to the buoy, you come back, you go down and get your bottom sample, and then you head on into shore, and as you wait for the rest of the class. And the pain was so bad that they literally had to pick me up and carry me back to the lockers because I physically couldn't walk.
The issues with your tendon in your ankles, did that have any issue on you swimming and kicking with the fins? And stuff?
So again, during the movement, I was fine. And for me, when I was doing the ocean swims, I would always dolphin kick. I would never flutter kick. I always had more power dolphin kicking, and I had great swim times. Halfway
Is
through.
that hence the reason why you're having issues though with your hip flexors?
Probably, possibly. Okay. I mean, it's the overuse in general.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
not like Buds just doesn't completely destroy you.
Right. And the sad part is, and I'll never be the same ever again physically. I'm going through so many health issues today because of my time in the military, and it's like here you are over a decade later, and you're still paying for it.
As far as the testing aspect, able to complete, no issues as far as, drown proofing, all of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, that stuff was all fine. What's funny now is like when you're in Buds, drown proofing is such a scary mental game. And now, like if I'm going to do any type of swimming evolution, I will do the whole drown proofing evolution on my own, the 20 minutes of drown proofing on my own to relax, because it is such a relaxing exercise once you aren't doing it in that stressful environment. So I didn't have any issues with that. I had to do the 50 meter underwater 3 times. I passed every time. No performance issues really outside of just prone to injury.
Did you come into Buds with a proficiency, I would say, swimming? Were you confident in your swimming?
Yeah. So when I was in the dive motivators, we were in the pool all the time. Nothing open ocean, but we were in the pool all the time. We were doing underwater stuff all the time. I mean, I would say like that time really prepared me. We didn't run a lot. I was there for winters, and winters in Chicago were just terrible. But in the pool, in the water, I was pretty comfortable. Yeah.
When did you actually get to a team?
So I graduated with class 262. We graduated Buds in 07. So yeah, Buds in SQT in 07. So I went to Team 7 in 07.
Did you want a West Coast team?
Yes. Yeah. And so, how that works is you get like your dream sheet. So you write down like where you want to go. And our class was actually pretty 50-50 split. We're half wanted East Coast, half wanted West Coast. I'm pretty sure everybody got where they wanted except for a couple guys they pulled for the SDB teams. But yeah, I wanted to stay West Coast. I mean, I obviously kind of fell in love with San Diego.
Hard to do.
It's hard. It is hard to leave San Diego. You take out the California politics. It's one of the most amazing cities in the country. And so, I wanted to stay here, and ended up going to Team 7. And
how was that experience for you getting there?
Getting there, obviously was a surreal moment. I mean, you work so hard, and I mean, more than most, having to try to get there. My times in the teams were not great. I did not have a good experience for many reasons. One, again, I brought all of that negativity, depression, and attitude like into it with me. All the things I had hoped to get from making it through Buds, maybe a little bit. I mean, obviously you got to have some sort of confidence and ego to get there, but once you get there, and that paired with leadership as well, like it was not a good experience. And it is what it is. I didn't really fit in with the community. I wasn't a fighter and drinker, and I was not one of the guys. And unfortunately for me, it was something I worked so hard to get to, but it was not a lifestyle for me. And I think then that's where there's a disconnect now between the generations of people in that community. Is you have the older generation where it's like this was your first family, and then your family is secondary. But it just wasn't how things were for me, and so it made it challenging for sure.
Do you show up as a new guy by yourself, or did you have a couple other people that you at least?
Yeah, there's a couple guys.
Okay.
So yeah, with your class, a lot of the guys from our Buzz class still went to Team 7, just dispersed into the different platoons. But how that goes is most of the time they'll put you on the team that just came back from deployment, so you get the full 2-year cycle with them. If you're a little early, I know the class that graduated before us, when they graduated, they still went to Team 7, but they actually went out, met them overseas in country for whatever month or two before they finished, 3 months before they finished, and then came back and then started their platoon. So yeah, you come with some guys. So I had, like 4 or 5 guys from Buds that were in my platoon with me. But that was my core. Like that's the guys who I got along with the most, is the dudes I suffered with in training. And I mean, we kind of all had the same experience where and this, obviously being a new guy it is what it is. Like there's a lot of expectations of things that are going to come with it. But it was the added bonus of like
your body is built for more energy, more focus, more strength. But if you're feeling sluggish, unmotivated, or mentally drained, it's time to make a change. At Human Performance TRT, science meets convenience. Their hormone replacement therapy, weight loss programs, and mental health solutions are all designed to help you feel and perform at your best without ever leaving home. They offer medical-grade hormone optimization, weight loss support with personalized health coaching, and ketamine therapy for depression, anxiety, and trauma, all guided by qualified mental health professionals. HPTRT is veteran and first responder owned, and they make it simple to optimize your health. There's no locked-in contracts, and if you're already on a hormone program, switching is easy. There's no extra test if your blood work is under 6 months old. Ready to take back your edge? Go to hptrt.com and use the promo code TDP for 30% off. That's hptrt.com and use the promo code TDP for 30% off your entire program. Stop waiting. Your peak performance starts now.
I would say just like the amount of disrespect we got from leadership in the upper tiers of the platoon. And it's like, you're coming in as a new guy and you expect to make mistakes, but you expect people to say, hey, this is how because all we have is SQT. That's the only experience we have. And so, you're looking to your leaders to help mold you and shape you into the frogman they want you to become. And in our leadership, respected the hell out of them. And they, like, operationally, they had so much information that you want to learn from. They have tons of experience, but instead they just talk down to you, disrespect you, and when you do something wrong, you pay for it without the, all right, now let's see how we fix it. So it came down to like, well, what, I'm here to serve the team, but I'm also here to, learn from you guys.
Was your going in, was your mindset, I'm going to do 20?
No, not necessarily. I didn't really have a plan.
Or a career.
Yeah, I didn't really have a plan. I was really kind of just seeing where everything was going to go. I was open to that thought of like, hey, if this is something that's I love and is great for me, doing a 20-year career was definitely on the table. But I was more leaning towards not. Again, I was open to either way, but I was more leaning towards not. But yeah, that decision is kind of, made for you as you go along, which...
The reason why I'm asking that is because then my follow-up question to that is, you're now at Team 7. No other way to say it. The warm and fuzzies weren't there. You weren't feeling it, so to speak. Was there ever a point that you kind of went, well, this is just once the new phase wears off, everything's going to be fine? Did it ever get to that point? Like once you're deployed, did it change, or was it always kind of like, I'm checking the day on the on the calendar?
No, there was that time where so deployment. So we went to Afghanistan in 2009. We were originally supposed to go to Basra, Iraq, and I think the last month before deployment, they ended up pulling our platoon and one other platoon from the team. They're like, you guys are going to Afghanistan. And so we ended up having to do all this extra additional training because of the terrain and atmosphere was a whole lot different. So deployment, the games stopped, which was nice. You look back on it now, you're like, man, I actually really had a good time. You know, when you're in country and it's 130 degrees and you're hiking on mountains and getting in firefights. I mean, I was very fortunate as a new guy to have the deployment that we did. I mean, we saw a lot of action. The rest of the team ended up going to Iraq and didn't get to do as much as we did. But as a first platoon, it was like a dream come true as far as what I was able to do or be a part of. So yeah, deployment was all the games stopped, which was great. And you're like, man, this is what I feel like it should have been with leading up to this. But then getting back, and once we so you get back, everything gets shifted around, right? You either stay in your platoon, you move to another one, but then like you lose people, you gain people. So within the second platoon, everything was going great at the start of it, and then all the games started again, and you're like, what? You're like, why? Like, is it all right? Clearly, it's me, right? Like, there's definitely people that had it out for me from the get go, that unfortunately bled into my second platoon, because I was getting schools taken away from me. So I was when we got back from Afghanistan, all of our platoon got first pick at schools. Everyone chose where they wanted to go, you know, breacher, sniper, whatever. Everyone got their pick of schools. I wanted to go to breacher, got slotted for it. And then maybe a couple weeks before I ended up going to breacher school, they're like, hey, we pulled you. We're going to put you in this language course for 3 months. And I was like, well, why? There's no reason. I talked to my new chief about it, and first of all, languages are just not my thing. I've taken like 3 languages throughout my life, and I don't pick them up. But so we ended up. Remember, I was actually at home on leave, and I got the call, hey, you're not going to breacher. You're getting put into this language course for 3 months for Tagalog, because we were scheduled to go to the Philippines. So I get back and I get there, and it's literally all new guys and me. You're like, what? Like, why? You know, and it's definitely, I know why, but so anyways, I stick it out, finish the 3 months, and they're like, all right, we're going to put you back in breacher, because there's still time in our pro dev phase before the workup starts, which, you know, I just missed out on 3 months of schooling and going like actual courses. And so after the 3 months is over, get my slot for breacher, good to go. They pull me again. They're like, hey, you know, we're going to stick you in the advanced Tagalog class for another 3 months. And I lost my mind. They,
stupid question. Had you excelled in the basic class?
No. And I mean, I've never been to the Philippines, but from what I hear, I mean, they all speak English anyway, and they enjoy speaking English. But no, it wasn't like I excelled. I'm like, oh, we're going to put you in the advanced class. It was just getting it stuck to me. That's what it was. But either way, so I ended up going through that other 3 months. During this time, I was definitely acting out and starting to treat people ways that I didn't normally do that. Started making decisions that were out of character. And that just escalated, right? It didn't do me any justice. So after that 6 month period now,
instead of taking I'll say the mature route of, man, they're pissing me off.
Yeah.
Let me do everything I can to negate why they're doing this to me. I'm going to give them more ammunition.
Yeah, pretty much. And so again, I mean, there's tons of actions on my part that should have been avoided. So after this 6 months of schooling, of language school, we have now bled into the beginning of our workup. And so I get to the team, and I'm at the team one day, and one of our new guys comes up to me and he's like, hey man, I'm so sorry to hear what happened. And I was like, oh, what happened? And they're like, oh yeah, they said they're moving you to team 1. I'm like, what are you talking about? No, like, that's not true. And so I go talk to my chief, and he's like, yeah, like they're gonna move you over. And I look back at it now, should have just done it. If I could have gone back and just changed.
Clean slate.
Exactly. Should have just done it. But again, it just made me so upset because like every block was just falling in, and it's like no matter what I did. And so they ended up, I ended up going to my task unit leadership, and I was, try to plead to like, hey, what can I do to stay here? And they were basically like, there's nothing you can do. And so I did something else that pissed them off. I ended up going over everyone's head. Went over.
Oh, that goes over really well.
But not to say I didn't go to them first, right? But I ended up going all the way up to Warcom and talking to the Master Chief there just to like plead for me to stay. And he's like, all right, here's what we'll do. We'll keep you at the team, and we'll have you jump in with other platoons during some of the more important blocks of training so you don't miss those, and then we'll keep you with your platoon. And I was like, all right, it's kind of best case scenario.
But in the grand scheme of things, you may have won that little battle. You lost the war.
Yeah. So to go back a little bit, and this is, I guess, this is where some trickling started happening. While I was in the language course, there was 1 week where my little brother was flying out. There was some family drama going on back home. My parents were like, hey, can your brother come out and stay with you for a few days? And I was like, sure. Went and talked to my platoon chief. He okayed it. I talked to my teachers, my Tagalog teachers, and I was like, hey, it was for like a Thursday, Friday, and then the weekend. So I was going to miss 2 days of class. And so I talked to my teachers, like, hey, I was going to miss these 2 days. I said, okay, sure. We came up with the plan for me to just stay late throughout the next week to make up the time I'm missing. No big deal. Little brother comes out. Everything's fine. He ends up going back home. I'm back to school on Monday, and I get a call from my command master chief at the team. Not a phone call you want to get. And I pick up, and he's like, where are you? Like, I'm at school. What's up? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm at school. He's like, in San Diego? I'm like, yes. And he's like, where did you go? I was like, I didn't go anywhere. And so what happened was the schoolhouse denied my request to miss those 2 days. Didn't tell me. They had my phone number. They had my email. Didn't once even bother to contact me. I had even already okayed this through my platoon chief and my teachers. So they ended up going, instead of going to the team and saying, hey, this guy's missing, they went to Warcom and said, hey, this guy's missing. And so, great, now I'm UA. Even though it turned into, I went on leave and left the state. It was a huge mess. I don't know how it started, but so.
It's kind of one of those things that, given the circumstances in and around it, it probably would have been easily resolved. But this was just another nail in your coffin.
Yeah, it would have, all I had to do was call the team and everything would have been squared away. Yeah. That's it. And so then it came down to, hey, well, we need to make an example out of this kid. So it was just, again, like you said, just one more nail in the coffin. And so at this time, now fast forward, I'm out of the language course, and now I'm going to boards for being UA and getting punished for something I didn't do. And so my CO at the time at the team, we met one day and he's like, what do you want to do? And he's like, and I asked him, or he gave me an option. He's like, hey, like, you can move forward, you can stay with your platoon, you can go to team 1, or you can get out. What do you want to do? So I was like, all right, let me get back to you. So went home, pondered it, called my parents, stuff like that, just kind of weighed the options. And the realistic option was, hey, like, I'm clearly not valued at all at this place. They're turning me into a person I don't recognize in the mirror anymore. And I've had zero respect from day one. And I busted my ass for my first platoon. I worked extremely hard for them. So I was like, all right, well, getting out seems like the best option. You know, like, the worst part wasn't the team life, the worst part was I put myself through so much to get there. Again, more than most to get there. And I mean, I proved time and time again that I wanted it. But yeah, and
how many years in here at this point?
6. Yeah. So I did 6 years, ended up getting out, and the transition portion there, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about this now, but it was extremely hard. I mean, and it was just more disheartening than anything, because it's something you work so hard for, and not very many people in this lifetime get to really accomplish their dreams in life. And I did. And then your dream turns out to be not what it's supposed to be. And you're like, well, what's the point of even trying for anything anymore? So it was very difficult, but overall, definitely the better decision.
To ask a rhetorically stupid question, going back to the first time when they were looking to move you to Team 1, what was your motivation at that time to want to stay at Team 7?
Yeah, I think it was just because all of my friends were there in that platoon. It's like, these are the guys I just went to war with. And like, that was my community. That was really the only thing.
Because I would say on the flip side to that, there wasn't a feeling from your part of, man, I've never fit in here. Wouldn't Team 1 be a good restart?
You would think so. I think at the time,
would you make that decision today?
Yes, absolutely. I think at the time, again, it was me. We were just battling. Mm-hmm. It was like, all right, you continuously take jabs at me. Like, what can I do to fight back? And that's what it was. I was just trying to gain a little bit more ground. And
it's your ego. Your ego's exactly. Like, screw you. You're not going to tell me where I'm going.
Yeah. And that's like the biggest downfall in any community like that. It's a mix of ego and insecurity. And all it is that it just creates this ball of rage and anger. But I understand it's the same thing that drive people as well, but there's a fine line of how you let it manipulate you.
Well, and you combine that, unfortunately, with immaturity, because you're talking over 10 years ago now, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was early 20s.
So the idea of being fully developed in your brain and emotionally as a young man, regardless of the baggage that you're bringing to the table, every one of us is basically a dumbass in our early 20s.
Agreed. No, absolutely agree. It was just a mix of a lot of different things. And so I'm not pointing just the blame of like, oh, they just had it out for me. It was that mixed with like, I was, sometimes we get dealt poor hands, but ultimately we're in charge of how we play those cards. And I played them wrong. So, I'm equally as at fault for what had happened. But that being said, I look at my life today and I would not be anywhere I am today, who I am today, without this experience. And that's something that I think more people have to do, is look back at the hard times and just realize how those times still shape you, probably, if not better than the good times do, in order for you to come out on top later in life. And I'm extremely proud of who I am today, all the things I've accomplished after the military, and looking back on it, you're like, it was still such a small time in my life, but such a big part of my life. I mean, it's everything I do today is because of that time. So, look back on it now, and it's, there's things I would have changed, but if I changed them, where would we be today? I don't know.
From the day that the CO gave you door number 1, door number 2, door number 3, and you chose to get out, what was that time between making the decision and actually being a civilian?
I think a little under a year. Yeah.
Were you making any plans for what you were going to do afterwards?
Very little. So I made the decision to go back to school. So I was like, all right, we got the GI Bill. I ended up going back to school when I got out for about a year.
When you got out, you decided to stay in San Diego?
Yes. Yeah. And that as well, was that the best decision? I don't know, because I was completely alone. My entire family was on the East Coast. I was living down in Eastlake. I had bought a condo down there. I was living by myself, super isolated, didn't talk to anybody. It did not do a lot of positive things for like my mental state at the time. But ended up, the biggest saving grace for me was I got a dog. I ended up getting out, got a dog, and at least had a buddy. It had a life form that I was responsible for. And later in life, he was my service dog for years and years. We actually just put him down last month at 14. So, but yeah, so that was the start of life, man. And the transition was just extremely difficult because, again, you're coming from structure, steady paycheck, for most people, camaraderie, just different disciplines. And like you have all this, you're coming from into a complete unknown where you don't, and at the time as well, there was no organizations like there are today. There's tons of nonprofits today that are helping guys, especially from the special forces operations community, to get on their feet and just set them up for success. But like we were talking about before the show started is, you like, hey, there's a door. All right, bye. And we did a 5-day class of transitioning, which again, it was just the only positive thing that came out of it is it helped you with navigating the GI process. So the GI Bill process. So being able to figure out like the whole school route was pretty easy to do once I got out.
This is easy to bring up, obviously, in hindsight, but you were drinking from a fire hydrant for those 6 years. That the idea of making sure that you established a life outside of the teams, outside of the Navy, was probably difficult, regardless if nothing was what I mean by nothing. If there wasn't all the drama going on, you probably still wouldn't have had much of a life outside the teams because you were still probably just getting yourself situated, all that. In conjunction with that, the friends you had, they're still running on that 100-mile-an-hour train now that you're out. So even if you say, hey, we're going to stay in touch, anybody who's transitioned out understands the people that are still working, they may have the best intentions and you might have you lose contact. So you really kind of had a total isolation.
Yeah, and that's totally right. I mean, you see them for a little while, but over time, they're still in the fight. They're still in that community, and then going 100 miles an hour. So, yeah, it didn't take long. And this is what I hear from so many people. It doesn't take long that once you make that decision and you're no longer part of the community, then you're kind of forgotten about. And no hard feelings. You get it. But yeah, no, it was a really bad isolation. And then I ended up, I went to school for about a year, and a job opportunity opened up, and I ended up leaving school and then started actually getting into the workforce. But it was coming from such a community that's put on such a pedestal, right? And you work so hard to get here, and it's very, highly respected. And going from that to you're just some punk civilian now, it's a big hit on the ego. But I don't think it took too long to kind of learn from it and just get into the groove. My first job I had was with this company called Competitor Group, and so they, if you're familiar with the Rock and Roll Marathon, mm-hmm. So they put on the Rock and Roll Marathon series throughout the country and overseas. So I was working, I got picked up working with them, just helping to set up the expos. And so,
was it something you went looking for, or just
no? So I had a friend. So one of my cousins from Massachusetts got a job offer in San Diego. He came out to San Diego, and then he had a friend from back home as well that lived out here, and he was working for a staffing agency. So he had a job popped up, and he kicked it my way, and I actually worked for them the summer prior when they were in San Diego, just doing the San Diego race, and then they reached out to me. They reached out to me personally to offer me the job.
What year was that?
This was 2012.
I'm just trying to remember when the last time I did the rock and roll. I think it was 2012. later than that. But
So they're based in San Diego. So San Diego is where their headquarters is at. But yeah, and that was a good experience to like be in the real world. And every other week I was in a new city, so I actually got to travel the country, which was great. I hadn't seen a lot of the country before. Even in the military, like all of our training is pretty local, and so we didn't do a lot of traveling. But it was a good experience, just kind of going out and being in new cities and setting up races. And the crew I was with was my immediate crew was great. The guys I worked with were awesome. Company as a whole was very like fresh out of college kids, and it's again coming from one community to this, and you're like, man, like this. All the problems of
a race event company is not a bunch of 50-year-olds who are mature and got their life squared away.
So, and it's funny because you feel like you're mature at, I mean, what was I at this point? 24. So,
you old man.
Yeah, I know. But it was good just to be out. And what was cool is like my dog was my service animal, so he traveled with me as well. So we got to do all these fun trips together. And I was with them for a year. And ended up getting laid off. They were letting go a ton of people. So I ended up getting laid off after a year, and then, which was fine. From there, I ended up moving over to a gun range down south. So I was an RSO at a gun range. That was probably the worst job you could ever. You're just a glorified janitor. But
how do I make this work?
Yeah, that was a rough one. But I was there for like 7-8 months, and then I ended up finding this schoolhouse that was down in Escondido. It was called Warfighter Academy, and it was a CQB schoolhouse. So it was strictly a force on force schoolhouse for law enforcement, military, civilian, and that was where things started to change a lot for me. So the instructor staff was made up of all combat vets. It was my first introduction to like working with veterans. You know, being a vet, which is really, it's funny because being a vet, you all think you're an individual and you're the only one going through the troubles with your transition, and it's the same across the board for almost everybody. And so,
anybody that you actually knew personally before getting on board?
No. So that was really eye-opening to just meet other guys from other branches of service, but all combat vets, and listening to their stories, hearing their struggles, and you're like, wow, like we're all the same. Like we all go through the same stuff. I ended up working there for years, and great. First of all, it was phenomenal training. I had learned more working there than I ever did in the teams. But I mean, you think about it. I mean, in the teams, you're doing all these different blocks of training throughout your workup. Here, we were learning one thing only and we would train 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for years. It was the most consistent training you would ever get. And it was really eye-opening. And
well, it's something different too. When you're providing the instruction, it just drives home for you the basics, because every new class, you're starting back at one.
Right.
Rehammering home the basics. And so for you, it's just rep after rep after rep of the absolute basics.
Yeah, it was that, but like we trained as a staff every night. It was phenomenal. It's actually stuff that I had learned there is what I still teach today, that I have been teaching for the last 11 years.
Before we jump into you starting your own business, I want to hit on something real quick. You mentioned that your dog became your service dog. Mm-hmm. So was there actually a point where you went and sought some assistance, some therapy, and how did you go about getting the dog designated as a therapy dog?
Right. So there's a company called Next Step Service Dogs, I believe, that we started training with. And so what was great about them is they work with you for vets that already have their animals. So most organizations that provide animals, like they're choosing the dogs, they're training them and integrating. And so it was great because they help to train you and the dog together. And so you continue to grow the bond with your animal as well. And it took a while. It took, I think, about a year start to finish, maybe a little less. But, and then I've had the privilege of meeting a lot of different other dog trainers in that industry throughout the years as well, which is great. But yeah, so I had, it wasn't from like a therapist or anything that like said, hey, like this, you're going to do this.
Getting connected with the company.
Right. So it's just making the decision and then having them go through the training.
Got it. When does the idea of creating your own company come about?
And so here at Warfighter Academy, working with these veterans, my wife now, at the time, my girlfriend, she was helping us with the design portion, right? Her background, she was helping us with the videos, the photography, the editing, the website, all that stuff. But really, we ended up, this is when we started our nonprofit. So this is 2016 timeframe. And just working with the veterans, it was like, what can we do? Obviously, there's a big divide between military guys, civilian side, but also with helping them with their transition. You know what the biggest thing for me is, obviously there's a very long-winded answer when we're talking about like veteran suicide and things like that, but the simplest form from what we found out is it really comes down to you're taking away these people's mission. I've unfortunately have known people that have taken their lives. Right now, we work with the Gold Star family community. We've heard terrible stories, and the common occurrence is they're leaving families, they're leaving even successful businesses outside of the military. But then what's the factor? What's driving them to do this? And it's really the mission. And you come from a community that where you're doing something so great and serving your country, fighting different battles physically, emotionally, and you leave the service and that gets taken away. That higher service is gone, and we all have that need to serve. We're wired for it. And so having that ability to serve, we're like, what can we do for these vets that give them the opportunity to still utilize their skills, their training that they acquired from service, correlate it to civilian side and have them be able to give back, but also to know that their services are still needed. Like, how did that then let them know that what they have to offer is still
of value,
something that people are really eager to learn or have be a part of their life. And so we started our nonprofit, which is called Active Valor. So Active Valor. And what we do is we take transitioning veterans and we pair them as ongoing mentors to Gold Star children. So children that have lost a parent either in combat overseas or to PTSD related suicide or any type of medical condition while they're on active duty. And so we have this program called Valor Adventures where these guys get to take their skills, their knowledge, pour it into these kids that don't have it in their life anymore because their military parent is deceased. And so when we were starting it, we started it for the veteran aspect, but it was such just a phenomenal pairing because you have one community that lost their connection to the military by getting out. You have another community that lost all their connection to their service from their spouse dying. And I don't even want to get into the fact of like, they just get forgotten. Like they don't just lose the connection to the military, but it's all their people in their command, their friends, like all their military, everything is now gone. And so you bring them together and they get to service one another, right? The vets have all their military experience that they're giving to the kids. The vets are learning so much about resiliency and perseverance. And like when you see what these families go through and the challenges they have had to overcome and the tragedies they've had to overcome, it's phenomenal. And so we had, and then on top of that, when we first started, we had such a focus on the kids and vets that we didn't realize what it was doing for all the widows as well. Because now they have the time where they get to be together during our events and they can share their stories. They can talk about their husbands. They can talk about problems they're having with their kids. It's depressing to hear that there's, and we've heard it from multiple amount of our families, is like over time, they can't talk about their husbands anymore because it's old news. Like nobody wants to hear it anymore, like within their own family or their own circle. So like this is their space. So they show up, they kids go off, they get free babysitting for the day. They know that they're off with these awesome men who are teaching them some valuable life skills, and then they get to have their time together as well. And so it's really, we've developed a really big just family unit. It's not a big organization. It's just myself and my wife. We're the only 2 staff members. We have another 3 people on our board. And right now we service, latest numbers, we service just under 40 kids, which is 20 families. So we have 20 spouses with 40 kids and about 40 veterans. And so we really try to have that focus of the one-on-one ratio between the kids and the veterans. And there's so many things that have been amazing about this experience. And one of them being is we've gotten to see the relationships with the kids and the vets that have started with us in 2017 was when we had our very first big event, and see them grow over the past 8 years. It's been awesome. Like, we've been able to see, we had kids as young as 4 when we started. We've had like 6 kids graduate high school, go off to college. We've had some of our mentors that have had their mentees in their wedding parties. There's so many things outside of the organization is what is really where the reward comes from, because you know they're not doing it for us. They're doing it because they have felt strongly enough in their relationship to where they can continue on and grow as friends, and you can see the impact that lasts outside of what we do. And we're just about to hit 9 years.
Sponsorship for this podcast comes from Brothers in Arms USA. They're a veteran-owned and operated clothing and accessories brand that's 100% American-made. Every piece tells a story of brotherhood, respect, discipline, and honor. Deeply inspired by those who serve, those who have served, and those who have paid the ultimate price serving our great country. Whether you're an outdoor enthusiast, a proud patriot, or simply somebody who values high-quality American craftsmanship, they've got something for you. Go check out brothersinarms.com, spelled out fully, brothersandarms.com, and use the promo code TRANSITION20 to get 20% off your purchase.
This June, so coming up here, and we have our next big event is going to be on Father's Day. So we always have a Father's Day adventure. So obviously it's a very challenging weekend for the families, but we want to incorporate some good memories for them to have for that time. And so that's been our baby for a long time.
How often do you host events?
So we were doing 3 or 4 adventures per year, and they're a production. They are, you can go on our website and actually look at all the recap videos where we have in the summers, we would have these big field days where we would, rent out like a football field and have all these different events going on. For the Halloweens, Halloween is so fun. We started out doing mission-based zombie hunts where the kids and vets all had Nerf guns, and the first one we had 100 people come and role play. And professional FX makeup crew came out. It was a big production. We hosted it at the Carlsbad Safety Training Center, where the nice private facility where there's SWAT and fire train. And it has grown from, we done an alien invasion one a couple years back, which was my personal favorite. We upgraded the kids and vets from Nerf guns to those fully automatic gel blaster guns. And then we gave some to the role players. So now they're in the force element. And it's the last one we did last Halloween was it was called Dino Quest. It was a big like dinosaur hunt. So and while they're doing it, there's a mission. Like it's kind of like a scavenger hunt style where they're going to all these different rooms and they're trying to find things. They're going through different puzzles. They're going through all these different things. They have to as a team be successful in so that they can continue on and do the next mission. But then there's this constant threat of just being attacked by whatever the theme is for that year. But it's a ton of fun. And you can, if anyone's interested, you can see all the different videos that we host. But we were doing 3 or 4 a year pre-COVID. And then once that hit, a lot of momentum stopped, obviously, because everything is gathering, right? And it's large groups, and we have anywhere from 80 people to 200 people. And so it was really challenging that first year. Obviously we had to find more strategic ways to still be present with the families. And we were doing, care packages and stuff like that for the kids and the moms. And we were able to start finding places that would host us and allow us to use their space or facility. And so it took a few years to start getting the momentum back. And so now we're back to doing at least 2 big events per year. And so normally we've been doing the summer and the fall.
From the 30,000 foot view, looking down on your explanation of it, the thing that hits me the most is just what you're giving back to those kids, because there's that innocence, of losing a parent and what their life must be like. But then you think about it, like you said, you're giving purpose to other veterans. You're now giving the spouses or the widows a place to be back amongst what they perceive as a family again. So there's so many different layers to it that I wonder if you realized how big of a benefit it was going to be when you put it together.
When we started, we kind of had no idea the impact. When we had our first adventure, we had a huge fear of what if these guys just remind these kids of their dads, and it's a sad day, right? And everyone has a miserable time. We kind of had one shot, and even when we first started, it was really hard to get into the Gold Star community. Obviously, we were an unknown organization, and it really just took. We went on all these different Facebook groups and just started messaging people personally. And it's like, hey, here's who we are. Here's what we're looking to do. Do you want to be a part of it? And after our first event, which was September 23rd of 2017, we had never had to reach out ever again. It was all word of mouth, and which obviously we were very happy to hear that their experience was good enough for them to share it and get us to invite more families into what we were doing. And we're still very small. Like I said, and I told you, like we're about 20 families right now, and there's other Gold Star organizations that are helping out by the thousands, but I think what is best about ours is it's just such a more personal relationship that we get to have with them. Like they're not just a number where they're trying to bring in a family. Like we know them all personally. We know who their husbands were. We know, how they die. We get to, especially over the years, we've gotten to really know them personally. And I think that's been, again, is the most rewarding. Is we have that personal relationship, and it's not like, all right, we'll see you next time. Like you talk throughout the year, and they reach out to you if there's things that they need or their kid needs for school or something like that, and we help out as much as we can. But we didn't have an understanding of what it really was going to look like until it happened, and we were just praising God for the way that it went, and we're not a faith-based organization on paper, but I mean, we sat and just prayed over this and what it was going to look like. And we just asked God to give us the path that was going to lead us to what was going to be the most beneficial. And then selfishly, as a vet, I get out of it what I need to as well. And so like, it's a little sad for me because I don't get to participate in these great things that we put on because we're always orchestrating it. But seeing the relationships form it's been great for us. And we've seen veterans come together as well, because guys have met at our events, and then they've gone out and done stuff together. We had 2 of our vets that met during our one of our events, and one of them was getting ready to run across America. And he ended up connecting with this other vet, and they ended up doing this big journey together. But then it turned into something bigger, because literally he was just going to do it. Like, no,
I've got a dumb idea. Want to join me?
Anything, no support. And so it was able to grow to be a little bit more. But we've just to see those relationships as well. So not just the vets and kids, but see the guys being able to now do stuff outside, and if they're now with like-minded individuals and doing things that they all enjoy.
For the families and the veterans that are participating in this, what's the onboarding process?
So there's the families were all word of mouth. And so how that would look like is we would go through a questionnaire, pretty lengthy, of what their family's like, what their kids are like, their interests, what their dad was like, what branch they serve in. And so the vets go through this same questionnaire. And so we try to pair them up as best as we can just off of the information that we're given. Unless if we get like immediately introduced to a family by another one, then we can kind of establish that first, and maybe we have a vet in mind. But normally they go through this questionnaire process, and it helps us to pair them up as best as we can. And some have been phenomenal, some have been okay, and they just see each other during the events. But and then of course all the vets go through background checks and stuff like that. I was working with kids, and not everyone's good with kids. We've had to let mentors go just because like their attitude was so bad during the events. They're like, all right, it's probably not good in front of the kids. What's cool is obviously like all the spouses, they're all military wives. And so there's really nothing you can say to them that they haven't heard or actions they haven't seen before. So it takes the edge off a little bit. But I will say they do a great job behaving themselves during the events. And then we'll do some veteran only stuff where it's just the guys, get them together, and then they can be themselves and just let loose and say whatever and have their war stories or whatnot. But everyone does just a great job, and it's just a very well-oiled machine right now where everyone just works very well together. And it's at the point now where we just facilitate it, and everyone kind of knows the drill, and they know it's a little challenging at first when you're pairing a new vet and a new kid, because their kids are always very quiet up front. Even if their mom's like, yeah, they're very outspoken and energetic, they're always very, very quiet until they find that commonality, which is why we try to get their interest and give them, hey, like here's your profile of your kid. Here's the things they like. Think of some talking points. One of the things we don't focus on is the grief. There's other organizations that do that, and we don't go through any of the grieving portion. That's there to come join us, have a good time, hang out with their mentors, hang out with other Gold Star kids. Like they know why they're there, but they don't dwell on it. It's just, let's have some fun, have some good food as well. We always have a nice meal attached to it, and and just go from there.
Well, before I move forward, let's just stay on this subject here.
Sure.
For somebody who's got an interest in doing something similar, now that you've been doing it for a while, what are some of the pitfalls that if you'd have known when you were getting going would have been beneficial for you to know? Right.
So I would say when you're doing any of the legal stuff, get a professional to help you with that. We were fortunate. We were able to find somebody that helped us along with that. So I do know people that have tried to do it on their own. Get professional help when it comes to any of the legal stuff and getting all your, your 501c3 and all that type of stuff. So, and the next thing is, if you're able to find a team. We do things so minimally, and the pros are we work very well together, my wife and I, and we're very creative together. But after 9 years, like our creativity only goes so far. And so now our most challenging part is
what next?
How do we keep it fresh? And which doesn't matter. All they want is to have the time together. But for us, it's like, we need things to be different and bigger, and but have a team, because it's extremely stressful with you wearing all the hats, doing all the tasks. We do a lot of the handcrafting for all of the games, the puzzles and stuff. So there's a lot of time that gets dedicated to that. But having people organize, manage volunteers, have somebody else go deal with getting the food. Like, there's so many aspects that you get burnt out. And so coming up with an adventure usually takes us a solid 3 months to put together. In which case, if you come over to our house, it's adventure time, because you can't walk anywhere because there's boxes of crap everywhere. Floors are covered with crafts, games, puzzles, other items for the kids, for the vets, for the moms. And so it's a lot of work. And if you have other stuff going on, like my wife has a full-time 9 to 5, I run another business. We have a 1.5-year-old baby. It's a lot. And so if you can, from the start, devise a good team, and you'll probably grow quicker. Like it took us a while to get off the ground, just because we were bootstrapping it, and it was just the two of us.
Speaking of getting off the ground, do you have a long-term vision for what you'd like to grow it to?
To be honest, we really like where it is. We don't like the fact that things, since COVID, things got less frequent, but it works really well. We don't have the capacity because we don't have a team. There's no employees. We've never taken a penny, and I don't think physically we can handle anymore with everything else that we do. If this was our dedicated job, it'd be a lot easier, but it's one of those, we don't need to fix what isn't broken, but we're kind of open to see where things go. But at the moment, we're still having fun doing it. And again, being around for 9 years and still being successful with what we do, I think we're kind of good with where it's at right now. We do have another branch that we're starting this year, which is going to be more of a not a scholarship base, but a just having other means to help the families and kids out more on a financial level when it comes to, anything extracurricular activities or, things that kids need for school or sports. We've helped out one of our kids with getting like jerseys for his BMX stuff, or whether it's books for this semester or something like that. So we're going to try to put a little more focus on giving them more support financially, but still hold on to what we're doing now.
Have you gotten better at fundraising?
So we ebb and flow. So we started out with doing the galas, and like we've put on some really big dinners, which again, not to pat ourselves on the back, but 2 people putting them on it, and they looked like there was teams working on them. There's a lot of work that went into them. The amount of work that went into them never really reflected the payoff. And so we've done
it didn't.
Yes.
Somebody from the outside looking in, they're probably like, oh, wow.
Right. And we've done a couple of golf tournaments. And so we don't have a large focus right now on the fundraising just because of our bandwidth is so low. Like we will be starting a Memorial Day drive, which is always successful for us every year. So that'll be just an online drive. And we do a lot of different online things throughout the year, partner with some other brands and companies, and we'll do like some products that we'll get proceeds for. And but the large scale fundraising, it's too much for our lifestyle at this point in time. So we might start focusing on grants as well. But even that is a skill in its own. Like you need to have someone managing and writing grants for you. So we might try to see what we can find in that department.
Because the concept, just in talking to you, it definitely sounds like something that could almost be charter-esque or like offshoots around the country.
I think where we get in trouble with that is just continuity. So we would have to be the one standing them up and making sure that there's quality control.
Got it.
We have a very well-established brand. We have a very trustworthy brand, and obviously we've gained the trust of the Gold Star family community in that sense. And we would just have to make sure that if it's going to fall under our name, that it would have to live up to what we produce.
And then it goes back to, like you said, this is not your full-time job,
right?
And so there's so many hours in the day, and they're not infinite.
They go by fast. They go by very fast.
You haven't figured out how to add 2 or 3 more to a day?
Not yet.
Now, you've already mentioned, so you have another company. What's that about, and how'd that come about?
Yeah, so that's called Fortified Measures, and it is a personalized home defense company. So what does that mean? So I'll actually travel to people's homes, and we go over everything home defense related, everything from how to fortify your house from the outside to the inside, where are the best defendable positions in the home, because perfect world scenario, you don't want to have to go penetrate and clear your house if you can have a nice defendable position where you and your entire family are together and safe. But we don't live in a perfect world. And so then the largest portion of it is the training of how do we do the one-man close quarter stuff, which is very dangerous. It's very challenging. But there's good ways of doing, or better ways of doing it. And then we talk about everything from California law, what you cannot do, which has a lot of gray area as well, because a lot of it is situation dependent. But then we talk about aftermath when dealing with law enforcement after, talking about having liability insurance. So we try to cover every aspect to make sure that they can have all the information possible to stay alive, or first try to make their house a less desirable target to the outside world, staying alive, and then staying out of prison as well. So it's that started during COVID. I don't know if you remember the time when like you couldn't buy firearms, you couldn't buy ammo because they were all off the shelves. And so during that time, I had multiple people just reach out, hey, can you come teach me how to use my gun? I just bought a gun. Can you teach me to shoot? Can you teach me to do this? And I was like, all right. So I was just doing house calls. I was going to my friends' homes and, or not, we weren't gathering. So I chatted with their house. And
statute of limitations is passed. You were wearing a mask.
Right. But, yeah, so that's how that was born. It was just like, all right, hey, there's clearly a need for this. And then unfortunately, when you look at the numbers of the amount of home invasions that have happened over the last few years is just astronomical. And on top of that is most likely if you encounter a home invasion, it's not one person. You're looking at multiple threats in the house. So now how do you deal with staying alive? How do you deal with managing multiple threats at once, keeping your family safe? And it's challenging. And the average person, they go buy a firearm, they tuck it away until they need it, they never use it, they never train for it. I'm 100% all in favor of people expressing their Second Amendment rights, but it comes with a very big responsibility. You need to know how to use this tool, and you need to be proficient. It's like any other thing you get in life or any other sport. You can't go to a karate class and be a black belt in one session. It takes tens of thousands of repetitions and time and effort. So it's trying to give them not only the tools they can use, but also the building blocks on how to get better. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people, at least here in San Diego, that don't go through those steps. All right. They buy the gun, they put it in the nightstand. They've never trained with it, but more importantly, they've never trained under stress.
And then you're trained at 3 o'clock in the morning with the lights out.
That's when everything goes wrong.
You can't even make it to the bathroom without stubbing your toe at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're going to find your handgun and get to moving around your house.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to say stress. Do you offer advice as to weapon platform, or do you simply go off of what they have?
Right. So great question. And if they are, so again, there's no cookie cutter answer. So realistically, the answer to that question is the best home defense weapon is the one you're most proficient with, right? So if it's somebody that, hey, they grew up on shotguns, I'm not going to say go get a handgun, especially if I know they're not going to train with it, right? You got to train them with what's comfortable. That being said, so all the tools we use, they're all CO2 powered, laser based. You get recoil. There's digital interactive targets. It's the most realism you can get without being live fire, but zero risk.
You've got a lot of coffee options out there. You've got a lot of veteran and first responder owned coffee companies as well. Trident Coffee is one of these companies, but they're different. Trident fuels your body and mind with a premium cold brew that's infused with powerful ingredients for performance, focus, and wellness. Made with organic MCT oil, lion's mane, and reishi mushrooms, this isn't just coffee. It's fuel for your brain, ensuring smooth, steady energy with no jitters and no crashes. Plus, the cocoa powder adds antioxidants, and the electrolytes keep you hydrated and balanced. Yes, they are cold brew experts, and their beans are brewed for cold brew optimization. But what does that mean for those of you who also love hot coffee like me? Their coffee tastes amazing, not bitter. So enjoy it hot or iced, mixed into your protein shake, or take it on the go. However you drink it, Trident Coffee is coffee upgraded. Get yours now at tridentcoffee.com and use the promo code TDP15 for 15% off your order. That's TDP15 for 15% off your order. Stay sharp, stay fueled, stay ready.
You're using these different training tools that give you the feel And so they're at least learning with something that might be a more realistic situation. If they need help, we talk about the pros and cons of all the different platforms. You kind of help them make an educated decision. It is easy to kind of see what they're proficient in. If they're a new firearms owner, we don't just jump into home defense. We have basic fundamental classes we put them through first, give them time to get proficient with the firearm system before we even talk about movements and clearing rooms or anything like that. So
is that part of your initial workup, in the sense that when you're onboarding new clients, what percentage of them already come to you owning weapons, as opposed to, all right, I'm starting with you from scratch?
Yeah, it's a good 50-50 split, maybe 60-40 as more newer gun owners. And it's really just a prereq. So they know up front, if they're doing the home defense class, we're not covering any of the basics. You need to know how to manipulate this firearm and do it proficiently. If they're, hey, I just bought a gun. All right, clearly this is what you're doing.
We're going back to crawling.
Yeah, this is what you're doing. So, I don't think I've really had an issue yet with anybody that I've had to like backtrack and be like, maybe this isn't right for you. Let's start here. Because usually it's they're a new gun owner or they're somewhat experienced.
I would imagine that this is a business, the old adage, if you build it, they will come. I'd imagine this has probably gotten quite a bit of word of mouth growth.
It's not as big as I'd like it to. A lot of that, though, is because I didn't put a lot of time and effort into the marketing because we were so busy with everything else. And so over the past year, I've been putting more effort. Again, like we don't get paid with a nonprofit. So, working 8 years with no pay, it kind of hurts, especially now you get a family that's growing. And so we're putting more focus towards the business aspect. But one, it all has been word of mouth. I mean, I think every client I have has been from word of mouth. Maybe a few that have been off of Instagram and things like that. I've done a couple of live news segments with KUSI and Fox, or local Fox. The hardest part, the biggest hurdle we get is getting people to commit. It's very difficult. Again, they'll put money towards things that they'll do every day, but they won't put the money towards their family safety. And we've had people come to us that have almost been victims of home invasions, and they were very fortunate to chase the attackers away before they were able to get in. And they call you and they're all stressed out and they're already a firearms owner. Hey, my wife doesn't like guns. She now is getting a gun, and you just can't get them to commit. And they can't. You can lead them to the water, right? And so I think it's really just finding a better way to, because I don't want to use fear mongering as a selling point. It's a portion of it because it's reality. But you kind of want them to come to the decision on their own, and I think it's hard getting them to a place where they just want to put in the time. And it is long. The home defense is a 4-hour class for a single day. There's other multiple day options, but starter, it's a 4-hour class, and so it's like, all right, well, how do I piece out 4 hours of my day if they have busy lives and stuff like that? So I'm sure there's a few factors, but it's really just getting hard for people to just say, all right, let's do it.
On the flip side, is this your long-term vision, or is there something else that's kind of brewing that you want to work towards?
So this is, I would say it's on the long-term plate for now. We do other things. I also host Force and Force classes as well down in San Diego at a place called Strategic Operations that has this amazing 4-story shoot house. And so I put those on like about once a quarter just to give people that experience. We've also moved over into the corporate space. We're doing team building events where you're running and gunning with actual guns that shoot projectiles, but it's all in a safe environment. But you just give them the opportunity to have fun, come together.
Is it Sims or Airsoft?
So it's from a company called Unit Solutions. I don't know if you're familiar with them at all.
I haven't heard specifically.
So they are a phenomenal training tool. They're fairly new in the industry, but their platform is a little more similar to airsoft. So they have a couple options where they shoot 8mm BBs, so it's a little bigger than an airsoft BB, or an 8mm paint round. So you can, when you're doing force on force, you actually have the marking capability, which is where airsoft lacks. And so I train LE on the side as well. Worked with local departments here. Last year I trained the CHP SWAT team up in Sacramento, and a lot of agencies are now getting away from sims, just because of a few reasons. One, the amount of protective gear that you're required to wear. Two, you have the risk of cross-contamination with ammunition, because you're shooting rounds that are built to fit in actual serialized weapons. And so there's always that risk as well. And so the Unit Solutions weapons, they're non-serialized. They went through all the hoops with the ATF. They're deemed non-serialized firearms. So when you're talking about where you can train, it opens up your options a little bit. But also there's zero risk. There's zero risk of any type of cross-contamination with mixing live and training ammunition or weapons.
Well, and I would assume that also too, what opens then is your greater number of training locations that you could train at, as opposed to, hey, let's train in our office and we're going to get paint splatter all over the walls.
Yeah. I mean, we've used them in office buildings. And even if you're hitting walls, unless you're shooting point blank, they're not even denting the drywall. But if you are using the paint rounds, even if you're target shooting, I like the paint rounds just because, one, if everyone in your stack is running different colors, you know who's hitting what, right? Especially when it comes to like, oh, who hit the hostage? Oh, who's green? Who's shooting green, right? So yeah, just
and there is an immediate recognition component to it. The Sims rounds are really nice for that.
Yes, but man, they also hurt a lot.
No, they don't.
Oh, they hurt, and they're expensive. They're expensive, and yes. I from what I heard, they're a lot harder to get access to unless you're military or law enforcement. So if you're like a civilian trainer, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to come across them. So you just got to weigh out the pros and cons, because like the cons are you have to buy the system as a whole. You will save money in the long run if you're using them enough. But for me, the risk factor, the pain level is less than, but it's enough. I mean, it doesn't tickle. It's enough. It'll break skin if you're wearing, short sleeves or something, but it's not enough to deter you to want to train. And I think that people hear simunition. There's some people that are like, oh, I'm going to sit this one out because I just don't feel like getting peppered with sin rounds. I
just think back to the worlds we came from. And if there wasn't some mark that you could say, no, I got the hit on target, you didn't hit me.
Yeah. But again, you get the paint rounds with the Unit Solutions, and it's enough.
I want to get back to you personally. You've mentioned now twice starting college. Have you ever finished it?
No.
Any plans to?
No. No. Actually, I think my GI Bill has expired.
Because you did say that you loved school.
Loved it. It was the greatest 4 years of my life. No, I don't have any, at the moment, I don't have any ambition to go back. Again, I think my GI Bill has now expired. I mean, I've been out since 2011. So, but I mean, life is so busy at the moment.
I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I would look into it because it's something you could hand over to your daughter, right?
Possibly.
I would just make sure
there was a time when I don't know the limitations on how much I've used versus like what's left over, time frame. It definitely worth looking into, but by the time she needs it, I don't know if it'll be available. I don't know if this world is going to be here at that time. You never know.
Going way, way back, I want to give you the opportunity to tell your story of coming back to your spirituality.
Yeah. So I guess it wasn't even, when I grew up, I had always believed in God. I had no relationship. I didn't know Jesus. I was one of those, like I would pray to God when I needed something, and when it didn't work out, like why? So, in 2013, I started attending a church out in San Diego. Actually the same guy that got me that first job, got me to go to his church, and it was more of a social thing for me. Like I needed to get out of the house, and it was, we were going to a lot of like the young adults nights, and okay, I'm around people my age, and it was good to get out of the house and meet people. And every year they would do a men's conference, and it's gotten very large. I mean, there's thousands of people that come from all over the country that come out to it. And so this is 2016. It was coming up. I'd always put it off every year because I was like, it's great for, you guys, you get a lot out of it. That's good for you. It's, it's not for me. I've done too much. I can't have what you have, type of mentality, which, now is just complete load of crap. But 2016 comes around and my wife is like, just go, like all your friends go every year. They ask you to go. And it's very competitive. So it's made up of X amount of teams, and it's a mix of, they have like speakers come, there's the worship, there's the word, then there's like a whole day of activities, and it's a lot of fun. So even if you didn't go for the spiritual aspect, she's like, just go. Like you like being competitive, you like doing athletics and stuff like this. So I was like, all right, I'll do it. So I ended up going, and this was March of 2016, March 25th. And that was, we were in worship, the first night, and, the band's up, they're playing, they have the lyrics up. So I'm like, all right, you just got to like, I had to make the decision of just being vulnerable. I had to put myself out there. I had to let the guard down and just allow God to work in me. And it was a point in my life where like nothing was working anyway. So you're like, well, what am I going to lose? And so it was one of those times where I was trying to sing along to the music, and I start getting all like teary eyed and like, oh, hold on. I stopped. I gained my composure, and all right, I'm good to go at it again. I start getting all like teary eyed again, and it's stop again, gain my composure. I'm like, all right, this is very weird. Like what, I didn't really know what was happening. And so a third time, I'm just again going through the motions, and I just like break down. I'm a sobbing mess, and it was great. And it's weird because you're the weird guy by not participating, right? Everyone around you is there for a reason, and you're the one that's kind of standoffish and standing with your arms crossed and all that stuff. But so I just start weeping like crazy. And it's March. It's cold out. We're in a tent outside. It's actually really cold out. And then I just get this warm sensation that comes through. And it was the first time I'd ever felt like God's presence in my life. And the sad part is they've never gotten that feeling again of like that first time. But from that point on, like it just changed my demeanor for the rest of the weekend. And that weekend I ended up creating a lot of really good relationships within the team I was on and the community I was around. And so it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So that Saturday I ended up getting baptized at the event, and just been the biggest life-changing event that I could have. And I think most people I interact with, and especially if we're talking about like social media and stuff, I mean, I'm pretty open about like my faith. I mean, it's something we shouldn't hide regardless, but God has just done tremendous works in my life. And he's taken so much. And you look back in my life from childhood, and I can, at the time you're like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? And you look and you're like, here's where you were in the situation. Here's where you were in the situation. And you're like, wow, I can't even fathom all the times you've either kept me from something that I thought I wanted, or you provided me with something that I didn't know I needed. But everything I do now, I mean, from the nonprofit to our family dynamic, our parenting, our marriage, we've just been able to put him center of everything, and it's flourished, and not in the sense of like, like financially or anything, but we get so much, I guess like just spiritual rewards inside that makes everything worth it. And so that's I ended up going to that conference for like 7 years in a row. I've been fortunate enough to bring friends there as well that are now believers, and their lives are thriving, their businesses are thriving. And then every February for a friend of mine as well. I puts on a faith-based training event out in Florida that I get to go coach at and pour into guys and be a part of their baptisms. Like it's been the most remarkable thing. And again, he's taken me, someone that came from such negativity and poor ways of thinking and going through the trauma and stuff that I've gone through, taking all my bad experiences with like the teams and just again, I wouldn't be where I am today without it.
Was it just getting connected or reconnected to your faith, or like you said earlier, you grew up Catholic but not really practicing, getting that connection, or was there more to kind of help you put a lot of that baggage behind you?
I think it's a good question. Again, I don't think it was reconnecting because I don't think I really even had the connection in the first place. But what helped me was seeing the experiences my peers were having, and then just, again, being able to be vulnerable with him and taking the reins off. And I said, I mean, that's a huge problem I have today is like, I want to be in control of everything. And then when I'm in control, I screw it up. And then once you kind of let go and just let him do his thing, it just works out way better. We were going to screw everything up all the time.
100%. But our ego tells us we can control it all and fix it. And if I mess it up, I can fix it.
Yeah.
To kind of wrap this up, I want to give you the opportunity, if there's anybody who's listening who is in the team space or that type of environment where they're not feeling part of the team, what advice would you give to you back then?
Right. First thing would be change your attitude. Again, I played a huge factor in my experience, and that was just having that negative attitude all the time, feeling singled out. And so I would say, I mean, definitely look at your attitude and what you can gain from where you are. If I could go back as who I am today, it'd be a whole different experience. Even if things didn't change in certain areas, the things I could control, especially like my emotions and actions, they'd be a lot different. So yeah, biggest thing is just look at the situation and like check your attitude and just try to gain something positive from it. Because I know there's going to be something there. You went through the effort to get there. And, but other than that, there's still going to be like-minded individuals. And where I lacked as well is I kept everything to me and I let it boil, and I had no person that I would confide in or anything. So you find they're there. You find the like-minded individuals and find people that are going to lift you up. I wasn't a believer in the teams. That's I guess the number one thing I would have changed, and just rely on him to kind of help me along with the process. And that's another thing. I mean, if you're a non-believer, it might be just all you got to do is ask, and just, you don't even have to believe that anything's going to happen. You just put it in his hands and allow him to work. And also know that some circumstances are going to happen, and they're happening because they're building something in you that will give you something that'll come out positive in the future.
Any residual physical issues or limitations that you're still dealing with through all that?
That's a whole nother conversation.
Surgeries
so I've had so I've had one surgery. I have tons of joint problems everywhere: ankles, knees, shoulders, lower back. Again, I will never be the same physically. And that's one thing the military took from me that I'll never get back. It is my ability to fully function as I was meant to. But right now I'm going through tons of GI issues that the doctors are correlating to time overseas. And so I had my gallbladder removed a couple years ago. My digestive system is a disaster. My stomach's a disaster. I spend every other night vomiting my food up. Like it's rough. We're in the thick of it right now. So We're trying to navigate through that and hopefully get some progress here soon.
Are the doctors inducing more to try to figure out the solution?
So we've done a lot of different. I've seen 3 different doctors as well. VA was like, "Oh, you have acid reflux." But after my surgery, so I ended up having gallstones, and so we had that removed. And then when that was removed, that's when everything started getting all out of whack. The good part is it was kind of a blessing in disguise because I had some things going on that I didn't know were going on that were a little serious. And then it took me having that surgery for them to find it. And so that was kind of a light there. But it's tough because like my entire diet had to change. You definitely can't enjoy food. I love food. And like, you can't enjoy meals anymore. You got to be careful with like, if I'm going to go eat out at a restaurant, there's times I don't make it out of the restaurant without throwing up. Like I've had to run out into the bushes and like throw up into the bushes after leaving a meal. And people walking by are like, I swear it's not the food. Go enjoy. But it's been really challenging. And so the hard part is it also, whatever I have, it's also eating at my joints, and like there's so much inflammation, so much pain. And you're a dad too. You had a young one. Like I want to make sure that I can stay active with her, and I want to be some broke dad. And there's a lot of things that we want to do in our future, and so unfortunately, there's a lot. They are finding now that the GI issues are very common. Whether it's because we had to drink river water overseas, and even with the iodine tablets and the pumps, we didn't have anything to boil the water with, unfortunately, but everyone got sick immediately. Like people were like, we were on the middle of an op and people are throwing up and crap in their pants at the same time. It was bad. But all that stuff is just kind of coming to light now, years later. But we're making a little progress, but it's been challenging. Yeah. Physically, like the health has been pretty bad.
All the back end stuff that never seems to end up on the pamphlets when they're talking about doing the job.
And they're like, oh no, that's not service related or service connected.
Definitely appreciate you sharing your story. I'm going to give you the opportunity. Any last piece of advice, somebody transitioning out that you want to make them aware of or that you feel is really important for them to know?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about starting the nonprofit journey, but don't do it alone. Like the transition, it's hard enough coming from, again, the military back into civilian life, but I made huge, and so many vets make the huge mistake of thinking they're the only ones going through their problem, thinking that they're going to be a burden if they ask for help. And I have countless amounts of friends who would be the first person to give their shirt off their back, but the last person to ask for help. And that mentality has to shift because you can't do it alone. What happens is you just end up bottling all up. Things get worse until it's a point where hopefully not that it gets, too much to bear. But there's so many organizations out there nowadays to help with the transition portion, at least like for the SEAL community. There's SEAL Future Foundation, the Navy SEAL Foundation, the Honor Foundation. There's a lot. None of that stuff existed when I was getting out. So take advantage of it. And I think a lot of people have this feeling of if they take advantage of the VA or these organizations that they're taking something away from somebody else, and it's not the case. There's plenty to go around for everybody, and so don't feel like you are going to be robbing somebody else of what you should be benefiting from, because it's simply not true. So finding groups, don't do it alone, and having healthy relationships with people. I did it all backwards, and I'm just happy to be here to at least share what not to do, because I've done all the mistakes. I still do, but it's easy. It's easy for us to let the pride and the ego get in the way and try to muscle through it. And I don't know if there's ever a story where it actually works out. Not that I know of. So
not many of them out there if there are.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me on.
As always, thank you for listening or watching the episode. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out on social media or send me an email. The links are all in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're not already, please follow the podcast on whatever platform you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe on YouTube. And if you would, please leave me a rating. Ratings do two things. You can tell me what I need to fix or improve, and the more ratings also gets the podcast recommended to more people. Another ask, please share the podcast with anyone you think could benefit from and enjoy it. And last, don't forget, sign up for the newsletter.